If you love your shower pressure, you might be paying for it in blown appliance seals and voided water heater warranties. Why is that, Cassandra?
Well, water pressure is going to be affecting every appliance in your home that has water going to it. And we've actually seen this before. We had a customer specifically tell us that they didn't want us to put in a pressure reducing valve because it would make their showers less good, and they didn't care. They would just replace their water heater more frequently.
Hey Dayton, I'm Alexis and I own a home here, which mostly means I have a very long list of problems.
And I'm Cassandra. I'm a plumbing pro, and I'm the one who shows up when that list turns into a puddle.
This is the Honeybees, where we pull back the drywall on Dayton homes.
Every episode, we get into what's actually behind your walls, the old pipes, the mystery DIY job someone did in 1974, and what it really costs to make it right.
I ask the dumb questions so you don't have to.
And I answer them without the sales pitch.
So grab your coffee, ignore that drip for one more minute,
And hit follow so you never miss one.
let's get into it. What was the original call for? Was it for the water heater?
Yeah, it actually was. The water heater had sprung a leak and was actively spraying water in their basement like utility area. And we took the water pressure because, it's standard practice. We should take the water pressure every time we go to a home. I'll admit sometimes it doesn't always happen, and like historically we were not always good at it. But this one in particular, we kind of suspected that there might have been an issue with the pressure just because of the intensity of the spray coming out around this water heater. And when we measured it, it was over 100. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a high one. And we told them that, like, okay, we can replace your water heater, and if you don't get a pressure reducing valve, then your water heater, and they had replaced their water heater a couple of times. Like, I think this was maybe an 8-year-old water heater, so it was like just past its warranty. And he's like, so if I don't get this PRV, what's going to happen? I'm like, well, you're going to have to keep replacing your water heater like pretty often. And he's like, no, I don't care. I want my good shower.
So they were replacing the water heater like every 8 years or more. It was the pressure's over 100. That's like the pressure that a fire hose runs at is 100. Like, did they have no idea that their water pressure was that high?
They knew that they liked their shower pressure, and that was the only thing they cared about.
So start me at zero. What is water pressure and why should I care about a number that quite honestly I've never thought about?
Yeah. So water pressure is the measure of it's basically like how much water wants to come out of your pipes, right? So if you think about what pressure is in general, right? It's like basically how much something's pushing, right? That's pressure. So if it's pushing a little bit, that would be low pressure. If it's pushing a lot, that's high pressure. And when the water is in your pipes, everything that it's touching is experiencing that pressure. And so all of your fixtures, your valves, your gaskets, everything that's holding the water in is being pushed on by that water. And your house is meant to be in between about 40 to 80 psi. Pretty
Okay.
much we want to target about like a 60 to 65 psi, but 40 to 80, that's a healthy range. Anything above 85 is actually like not to code. And so we want to bring it down below 85. That means that the people who are manufacturing the pipes and parts and appliances in your home are manufacturing it to experience ideally somewhere in between 40 to 80 psi.
So define PSI for me and why is that the standard that we are using?
Yeah, so PSI stands for pounds per square inch. That means that you're going to take a measurement and on 1 square inch, so it's about that big, the amount of force that's being pushed onto it is the pounds, right? So 40 psi is like if you had a 40-pound weight and you balanced it on 1 square inch of surface. And so you can imagine that as that weight gets heavier and it's balancing on that one small spot, that significant, that's a lot more pressure.
Okay. So what are you finding in Dayton when it comes to pressure? Are we generally above, low? Like, what are you finding in Dayton when it comes to pressure out in the field?
There's a lot of homes out there with high pressure. Usually you don't end up with people with low pressure because if you've got low pressure, you've got water that's kind of like dribbling out of faucets and stuff. People notice that and they care about it, right? And it's the
Yeah.
municipality's job to be delivering at least the kind of ideal range of pressure. If they're not delivering it, then there's a problem. People identify it, they get it fixed pretty quickly. But what people are not identifying is when the pressure is too high.
Yes.
Mostly, you notice it when the water pressure is low. People don't necessarily notice it when it's high. So the municipalities, they tend to over deliver pressure because also they have to balance demand, right? So they need to be providing enough pressure so that at the peak demand times, there's still like everybody still has enough pressure. So your water pressure will actually go up overnight. Most of the time, if you might be in a normal pressure during the day, and at night it'll rise and it may be above that recommended 85. Another thing that can happen with the municipalities is if they expect to have more people moving in, or if they expect to have like a new neighborhood built. They need to upsize and prepare for that additional water demand. And if they prepare for it and they get new systems online to provide higher pressure, and then something happens, there's a delay, or maybe the subdivision gets canceled or something, that can leave the entire area with really high pressure because the demand didn't end up coming to happen.
So what are some neighborhoods that you are aware of specifically that have these high pressure issues? Or at least which like suburbs of Dayton specifically would you say have these pressure issues or known for having these pressure issues?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind right away. I know there's pockets of Kettering that have really high pressure. Um, Springboro has some really high pressure. And then even like in downtown Dayton, I know like in my own home, the pressure there is like 110 or something. It's pretty high. So there's a lot of areas in Dayton that have high pressure.
Okay. So let me play skeptic here. If my shower is fantastic and my sprinklers are working great and I can get all the dishes washed, nothing has broken, why should I care about my home's pressure?
There's a couple reasons. One of them is if you have high pressure, you're actually using more water. So your water bills will actually be a little bit higher than they would be otherwise. One of the things that affects the total amount of water that you use is the size of the pipe combined with the pressure of the water coming through. That affects how much flow can make it through, right? And there's a limit. Like you can't force more water through a pipe after a certain point, but up to that point, you are actually using more water. So that's like an immediate benefit. It's not going to be huge, but you will notice a reduction in your overall water bill if you bring your pressure within proper range. And that's with like no other changes, right? Like you don't have to use less, like you don't have to consciously try to use less water. You are using less water because you brought the pressure down to like a reasonable level. The other thing is it does affect the life of all of your appliances. Your valves are going to go out faster, your water heater is going to go out faster, and those are really expensive. The last thing that people don't necessarily think about is let's say that you do have a leak occur, and first of all, it's more likely to occur because your water pressure is too high, right? And if it does occur, you're going to have
Yep.
more water coming out in that time frame. So you're probably going to end up with more water damage.
So will this affect appliances that are not plumbing specific? Like, can it affect my washing machine, my dishwasher, things that are more aesthetically, or even like, ooh, would it affect my fridge line?
hmm Yeah. So if you have a fridge that has a ice maker or one of those like water dispensers on it, that can absolutely affect
Yeah.
that, and it's most likely going to wear out faster.
Hmm. I guess that's the part that gets me is the damage doesn't seem to announce itself as like this is a plumbing problem.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
most of the stuff there is they're meant to be operated at a certain pressure, right? So within that 40 to 80 psi. If it's above that, everything gets over engineered to a point, right? It's going to be able to withstand spikes in pressure and high pressure. But even though it doesn't immediately burst and start leaking at higher pressures, it is still causing damage and it is going to wear out faster.
okay, so if your appliances keep breaking, maybe you don't have like three broken appliances, you just have like one broken house problem.
Hmm. Exactly. If you end up with your washer has let's say its pump or valve fails, and then your fridge line is no longer is now leaking, and your dishwasher had to be replaced because it was, something happened to it, it's worth looking into. It's a really easy
Hmm.
thing for you to check, and it can prevent a lot of like other issues from coming up.
Okay. So walk me through what type of damage is being caused to these appliances, uh, when it comes to these, like what it specifically is breaking on them that I should be looking at.
So it's going to be internal stuff for the most part. Basically, the pipes, the valves in particular, right? So what happens is with the water pressure, because the water is trying to move more quickly through the pipes, because of the higher pressure, when the valves shut off, it will create more of like a force to stop it, right? The velocity of the water is faster, and when you close that valve, it's higher acceleration. It's hammering the valves more, and it's doing that every time that you turn something off. And so eventually you'll start noticing drips around valves. You might notice that like joints on your plumbing could get strained. Sometimes if you've got, let's say you have PEX piping and you have a high water pressure, if something else damages the pipe just a little bit, if it weakens it, you can actually develop like little bubbles of water, like expanding the plastic.
Hmm. What does this do to the warrant? Like, I mean, all of my appliances have warranties on them. So if this is happening, like I can just get a new one through the warranty, right? Like if is a high pressure going to affect the warranties on my appliances?
Yeah, it can actually void them. If the manufacturer finds out that your home has high water pressure, and then they're going to be like, well, that's why this failed. It wasn't a manufacturing problem, it was a use problem, essentially. So you would be then responsible because you put this appliance into service in an environment that wasn't suited. And so you're going to be responsible for the cost of replacing it because the manufacturer let you know, it's in the manuals, right, at what the operating pressure should be. And if you are outside of that operating pressure, then your warranty's void.
So I spend all this time and money on a good product, and then the high pressure voids the warranty, and I have to spend all this money on a good product again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh, Another thing that I have heard is that there are some homes in the area that will get this like water hammer sound
Mm-hmm.
behind their walls,
Yep.
and it's a bang or a clang. What is that telling us?
It's telling you a few things. It can be a result of high pressure, and certainly high pressure makes it worse. It's also a result of like the configuration of the pipes, right? So water hammer happens when you have high velocity water and it has to either stop or change directions quickly. And so it'll like come along and, water wants to keep moving in a straight line. If you make it turn or if you make it stop, um,
Yeah.
it can shake pipes, it will clank against the stuff, and every time that happens you have to imagine that force is being absorbed by the pipes and the valves, and they're not really built for that.
I'm thinking back to like the 90s when we had this top load washing machine,
Mhm.
right? And when you open the lid, it forcefully shut off the water fill.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was like, I'm like, and then you'd suddenly hear the whole laundry room just mm.
Yep. Because that was a high amount of water and it was suddenly shut off.
Yeah, but honestly, at the time, we lived in a 1900 or a 1900s, an 1800s farmhouse. Like, I thought that was just what old pipes did.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of what old pipes do, right? But it's because they didn't design the systems to not do that.
So then the banging isn't really the problem. The banging is just the sound of the problem.
Pretty much, it's the symptom, not the cause.
Okay, so let's say somebody is listening, like yourself, and their house is sitting at 90 or 100. What is the actual like dollar exposure here? What are they thinking that they're going to end up having to pay to fix these problems?
If you don't get your water pressure fixed, I mean, in some cases, the dollar number is unlimited, right? Because if you let it go on, if you're that person who just loves their high pressure showers and you're like, well, I'll just replace my water heater, every time you're doing that, $3,000, right? So if you, over the years, if you add it up, $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, like, there's so many water heaters you're going to get in a lifetime, but you could get fewer of them. And then if you end up with, like I mentioned earlier, the water damage from a leak, the leaks are going to be more common and there's going to be more water involved when they happen. So the dollar exposure for water restoration can be tens of thousands of dollars in one event.
Not to mention, my like dishwasher was a solid $800, and I can only
Hmm.
imagine replacing that every 2 years.
Hmm.
I guess I'm silently wondering if I know why we replace dishwashers every 2 years growing up. The more that I work with you, the more that I question the houses that I lived in as a child.
Yeah, the things
Okay.
that people live with that they think are just normal.
All right. So here's the part where I want to give everybody something to actually do.
Hmm.
How would a normal person who is not a plumber, without calling a plumber, find out the water pressure in their home?
So what you're going to do is you're going to go to a hardware store and you're going to find a pressure gauge. It's this big circle, has dials on it and numbers, right? And it will have an
Hmm.
attachment on the bottom that hooks up to your hose bib outside. So unscrew your hose bib, put this on, or unscrew the hose from the hose bib, put this on, and then open it up, right? It's going to immediately tell you what the pressure is on your house. Now, here's the thing that is important. I mentioned earlier that your water pressure goes up overnight. So you want to leave
Hmm.
that on overnight. The gauge that you got, it should have a red line and a black line. That red line will let you know what the highest pressure it sees is. So leave the gauge on overnight. If it goes up, that line will stay there and then it'll come back down in the morning. And you want to go out there and check and see how high your pressure got overnight.
Okay. Um, can you give me like three other names for a hose bib? Because I now know what that is, but I did not 3 years ago.
You might have called it an outdoor faucet or a spigot or a hydrant. And that one's not very common, but apparently Menards likes that name. And
Yours does
basically,
like that name.
whatever it is you think of when you hook up a garden hose, that's what you're looking for.
Perfect. So I could use a scorecard on when I'm reading the gauge.
Mhm.
What am I looking at? And what am I looking for? And when should I panic?
You are looking, it's going to tell you just the number in pounds per square inch, so PSI. You want it to be
Mhm.
somewhere between 40 psi and 80 psi. If it's above 80, then we're kind of like, you might want to consider getting a pressure reducing valve. If it's above 85, you definitely want to get one. And if it's like 140 or something, then you need to get one as quickly as possible because that's extremely high.
Okay. What if it's like 50 to 60?
50 to 60 is perfect. You don't need to do anything.
Okay. I love when things come out perfect. And then if it's not, you said 80 and above, we should start 140, panic. What if we're like 92?
92, you definitely would want a pressure reducing valve, but it's not like a panic situation. If it's pressure reducing valves are not a terribly invasive or expensive project. Are actually one of
Mm-hmm.
the more simple things that we do for homeowners. But if you needed to save up for the project, if you just had a couple of things going on and you didn't have the money to spare right then, you could put it on like due soon, but you don't need to do it right away.
What are we looking at cost wise to get a PRV put in?
Yeah.
Pressure reducing valve put in.
Yeah,
If
pressure
I met with you
reducing
guys
valve,
tomorrow.
it's going to depend a little bit on your home setup. Most of the time, we're putting it in right after the main shutoff valve in your home. And
Okay.
that is, as long as that is in a fairly accessible area, you're looking at probably about $1,100, $1,200. It depends a little bit on the size of your line coming in. You have to match the size of
Mhm.
the PRV to the size of the pipe. The bigger it is, the more expensive it is. But generally speaking, you're looking right around $1,000.
So I'm going to spend $1,000 now to save unlimited money on the back end.
Pretty
I mean, I'm
much.
going to have to replace the dishwasher again at some point, but
Right. But you're going to have to do it a lot less often, and you're going to hopefully avoid the worst of like the water damage that could accompany it.
okay. Uh, So what if I don't want to test it? Or what not if I don't test it? What if I don't want to buy a gauge?
If you don't want to
What
buy a
if I
gauge,
don't want to buy a gauge?
then I recommend calling your local plumber, hopefully us. We'll come out. For us, we do the pressure test with every visit. So, and it's not an additional charge. It's something that we want to know about the health of your home, so that we
Mhm.
can give you the best recommendations for what you need to be doing to protect your home.
Should I be making this call only if I live in an old home?
Nope. New
Like,
homes
what if my house is
also.
15 years old?
If your house is 15 years old, and you don't know what the pressure is, I would make the call anyway. It's always good to know. Old homes can have high pressure, new homes can have high pressure. The pressure is dictated a lot more by the municipality and what's been going on with them than on anything about the home
Mhm.
itself.
Okay. I feel like Beaver Creek specifically has had a lot of new um, neighborhoods going in,
Hmm.
and that might cause. I wonder when the last time you guys tested a house that's in Beaver Creek, because that could be an interesting area.
Yeah, I don't know,
Or
I'd
they're
have
like,
to. I'm sure we've tested one very recently. I would have to go look and dig in the records to find out.
um. So, are there differences in PRVs? Like, are there economy, like intense ones? Are there really any differences in them?
Not really. I mean, there's a few different brands out there, but they're all basically the same idea. We would trust something like a Watts or maybe like a Nibco or somebody. They're good industrial brands that make products for your home as well. And basically, all it's doing is you've got uh, the piece of equipment, it's got a set screw on its top. They're actually the one difference that is kind of nice. The most basic ones are just the pressure reducing valve,
Mhm.
and you have a set screw, and you just like you test it separately to make sure that you're getting the pressure that you want. The nicer ones do have an integrated pressure valve or pressure gauge, so that you can monitor all the time how much pressure you're actually getting on the outlet of the pressure valve.
Ooh, that one sounds nice. I think you should come put that one in my house. I actually don't know if I need a pressure reducing valve.
At this point, I'm
You know,
almost
for some
convinced every
reason,
home does. Because here's the thing, if you
like for some
don't have
reason,
high pressure, it actually does nothing. But if it should ever change to where there is high pressure, then you're protected.
so if I don't have high pressure, it just doesn't affect my house at all.
Yeah. So basically what it does is it reduces higher pressures down to whatever the set point is, right? But if it's at or below that set
Mhm.
point, it's not doing anything.
Okay. So is it pretty standard for builders to put them in nowadays?
I don't believe it is at this point. Um, Typically, when builders are
Okay.
making a home, they are focused on other things.
Hmm.
This is kind of an add-on.
Interesting. Okay. So TLDR, too long, didn't read. What are three takeaways that we can get from that a homeowner can get from this episode?
High pressure will affect your plumbing. Um, so high pressure will affect your plumbing. It's easy to check, and there's almost no downside to putting in a PRV.
So I just Googled it. It's like $12 to $15 to buy a uh, homeowner pressure gauge.
Yeah,
And then just for a refresher, because I have a short memory, what is the range that I'm looking for again on my pressure when I go
your
test?
water pressure should be somewhere between 40 psi and 80 psi. If it's under 40 psi, you probably have already noticed that you have low water pressure and you're probably complaining to whoever you complain to about that. If it is from 40 to 80, perfect, you don't need to do anything. If it's above 80, definitely consider getting a PRV to protect your home and protect your plumbing. And if it's above like 120, you need a PRV.
Call a plumber
Call a
today.
plumber today.
Speaking of which, if you are going to call a plumber, call Honey Go Fix It. We serve Beaver Creek, Dayton, Kettering, a lot of other places, mostly the entire greater Miami Valley area. So we are happy to come out and perform that pressure test for you free of charge. And next episode, Cassandra, we're going to go into the walls,
Into the
literally.
walls. Oh.
Yeah. So if your house was built in the late 70s and mid 90s, there's a specific type of pipe that might be in there, a little birdie told me.
Mm.
And some Ohio insurance companies might have a real options about it. So it's going to make people a little bit nervous and they should come follow
Or maybe
to find.
comment below what pipe are we possibly going to be talking about next time.
Oh, that'd be good. That would be good. So, uh, it's definitely going to be a big one. But, okay. Well, as always, stay sweet.